The explosive growth of the American industry in the late 19th century caused a similar expansion in the workforce. Working conditions in the new urban industrial zones were wretched, and a reform movement became apparent because of the need to address the health and welfare of the average American worker. The meat-packing industry during the early 1900s was unsanitary, unregulated, and involved incredibly dangerous work. Children as young as 3 years old were often employed and forced to work long hours, sometimes 12 to 15-hour days, for very little pay. Enforcing simple things like hand washing and requiring the use of hairnets were unheard of at the time. Therefore, the meat was often contaminated with sweat, dirt, and human hair, among other things. The machinery that was used to process the meat was also a problem. There were reports of workers falling into rendering tanks and being ground, along with animal parts, and sold as lard. Eventually, the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 led to the Food and Drug Administration, also known as the FDA. These made it sure that the meatpacking factories were much more sanitary and that the food that was being made was too.
Working conditions in the factories.
Working conditions were pretty bad. A lot of the time, things were out of hand.
Like?
There were a lot of instances where employees were injured, and there was an occasion where even some of the meat of the people got into the meat that we were selling to other companies.
Oh. The factories, were you guys required to wash your hands or use hairnets?
No, we weren't. That wasn't part of our day-to-day routines.
So were you guys trained to clean up when you're using the meat and keep things organized, or?
No, because even throughout the day we would get dirtier, and there was sweat, just body oil, and just hair, and it would all just kind of get into the meat too, and we would still process it and sell it to other companies.
So tell me how it life was for the workers. What hardships did they go through?
Well, like I said before, many were injured. There was diseases. Little pay. It was just a lot of things added up together that made it really hard to work.
Did you guys work long hours, shifts, or short?
It was pretty long. And we endured a lot, and we didn't get paid that much for it either. So,
while interviewing Jurgis, I really got to see the hardships and the intense conditions that the workers go through. As for him, his family moved over to this country, and he's trying to find a job. And it was really hard because they worked long hours and they had really little. Jurgis also mentioned while he was in the factories that he would witness workers having unsanitary things around the meat. Sometimes they would drop the meat on the floor, and there would be dead rats, and there would be dirt, and they would just pick it up and put it into a processor and sell it to consumers, which would go out to the public, which is very unsanitary. Overall, this experience was very beneficial. I got to see a lot of insight on how the workers' families live and the horrible conditions in the meatpacking industry.